I still remember the feeling in my body of the ferry coming in to the island, and I was standing outside looking at it, and I just felt my whole body soften and literally have this feeling of I'm home. Matrescence is reflecting the multi-layer, multi-dimensional changes that are happening for a woman. And so when we hold on to those images, those expectations that we've created ahead of time, if we hold on to them like the truth, like they're in stone, like that is the way it needs to be, very rarely is life ever the way we expect it to be.
There's a word for the profound identity shift that happens when a woman becomes a mother. Most of us have never heard of this word, but when you do, you might just find it describes something much bigger. In this episode, we explore a pattern of becoming that shows up again and again throughout a woman's life, including right here in midlife. Enjoy.
This is midlife itself is another time of transition and becoming, and to just say, like, embrace it. Go for the journey. Allow it to take you somewhere beautiful.
Welcome to another episode of Midlife Unfiltered. Today I am joined by my friend Linda Anderson, a coach of over 20 years, a mother of 3 daughters, and someone who has dedicated the last 15 years to supporting women through the transition into motherhood. Originally from Australia, she's now living on Waiheke Island in New Zealand. She brings both professional depth and lived experience to her work. Her focus is on matrescence. This was a new word to me when I was interviewing her, so we're going to explore that today. But what it is the profound and often unspoken shift in identity that happens when a woman becomes a mother. And it's a transition that for many can feel unexpected, disorienting, and deeply personal, of course. So Linda creates spaces where women can explore that experience honestly, making sense of who they are becoming beyond the roles that they hold. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and welcome, Linda.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
It's really lovely to connect with you. I remember it was like when you were having your babies, I came into your business and helped you on maternity leave. So this is kind of another one of these full circle moments in life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was when I had my first baby and did not know what was yet to come in the transitions of life, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think any of us were prepared or expected what was going to happen. So obviously we've known each other for a long time and life is very different now for both of us. But what does a normal morning look like for you these days?
Uh, so a normal morning, we live, as you said, on an island, and my children commute to their high school from the island into Auckland. So we're up early, get them up, get them off to a ferry so that they can commute to school. Who's my eldest daughter has gone off to uni now, but one of my daughters who's still at home has a chronic illness called POTS, and so that creates unpredictability in our mornings because she's
Mm.
not always able to get up for school, even though we've intended to, and so we sometimes have this rolling. We'll try for the next ferry or the next ferry. It's not like, if we lived in the city, we'd be able to go, when you're ready, I'll just get in the car with you and drive you to
Mm.
school. So, yeah, anyway, and that's sort of the morning. And then once I've cleared the decks in whatever way that looks like, we settle in for dog walking and some coaching for the day.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's, for me, I go, "Oh, that's quite difficult, isn't it?" That unpredictability, having to be prepared. It demands you to be really flexible.
It demands you to be really flexible, and I've had to surrender to, structuring my work to
Mm.
maintain flexibility. So for example, I try very hard not to schedule any committed coaching time before 11 a.m. so that I
Yep.
can just be really fluid, and know that I'm available to her until the deadline of if we haven't got on a ferry by now, we're not going. So,
Yeah.
now I'm free to do what I need to do.
Yes, yeah. When we were speaking, you were telling me about like this road to Waiheke Island, to living on an island, and there's such a great story in the background here about how you got to live where you are now, and there was a lot of choices made. So can you share with us that story? I find it fascinating.
Sure, sure. So we used to live in Sydney. I lived in Sydney for 20 years. Loved Sydney as a young adult, didn't want to raise my children there. I wanted, well, my husband and I, were really conscious that we wanted our children to grow up somewhere where they had more freedom, more, I didn't want to worry about them walking down the road to the
Yeah.
shops by themselves kind of feelings, and that we didn't feel Sydney gave us that. So when my eldest daughter was born, we started talking about, well, what do we want in coming years? And so we wrote a list of qualities and attributes that somewhere was going to have, that we were going to find, right? Didn't know where. So it was things like we wanted it to be near the ocean. We wanted it to have bush, nature, greenery. We wanted a really beautiful sense of community. And we wanted it to be within 2 hours of an international airport because we love to travel. So they were kind of our core criteria. And then my husband and I literally went on a whole bunch of holidays up and down the east coast of Australia and all around New Zealand because he's a Kiwi. And then when my eldest daughter was 18 months old, so I still only had one child at this stage, when she was 18 months old, just a random series of events landed us on Waiheke Island unexpectedly. And we just sat there going, oh my goodness, tick, 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 tick. But it was the middle of summer. And, the island in the middle of summer is at its sparkliest and most beautiful and seductive. So I was like, yeah, okay, I see you at your shiniest. But if I'm going to think about moving here, I need to see you at your not so shiny times. And so we then just held this idea of, what if this is our place? Like, what if this is, what if we found it? And we had a lot of holidays as we kept having more children, and we'd come back at different times of year, like the middle of winter when it's cold and wet and rainy, and we'd hang out in the local playground where only locals would be in July,
Oh,
in New
yeah.
Zealand. And I'd sit there and I'd just talk to people and say, what's it like? What do you love here? What's hard? What do you do about this? And yeah, we spent a few years doing that till we were like, okay, we're sure we're going to do it. We're going to move and figure life out to get here. So when we got here, my eldest was 7, my middle daughter was 5, and my youngest was 3 by the time we actually got here. That sort of
Yeah.
the time frame of that first, I think we found it, to working through the process to go, yes, absolutely. And like, what are the structures we need around us to make that possible? We didn't know if my husband would be able to keep his job if we moved here. We had to be ready to walk away from his career to say, this is more important. Let's see what happens.
Wow.
So there was a
Yeah.
lot behind it. We were lucky that his work did support that and did find a structure for him to continue working, but we didn't know that. We had to be willing to call it and say, we're going.
That's a big call with 3 kids.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And so you bought a block of land there?
So again, because we're big planners. So originally we had bought a house here somewhere in the journey. We bought a house here and we rented it out. And then maybe a year or so before we arrived on the island, we also bought a block of land. Because on the island, we live entirely on rainwater and septic tanks. And so the number of bedrooms that you have in your house is dependent on the size of your land, because it's about water resource management and having overflow dripper lines for your water. Blah, blah. So as a family of 5, if we want a 4-bedroom house, we actually need a fair bit of land, which is not that easy to get on the island. So the house we bought and we moved into when we first got here was a 3-bedroom house, perfect for that phase. But we knew that to have the life we wanted was to have space for everybody, and we needed to build a house on this block of land that we bought. So it was a
Oh,
journey to that.
goodness, that's quite the journey. But it's really interesting to me how specific you were in the qualities that you wanted. But I like just hearing them. I go, oh, there's lots of places that could fulfill that, but there was something special that captured you. I can hear that too.
Well, what was really interesting for me, like I am deeply, deeply in my heart Australian. Like I feel very, very connected to the land, to people, I feel, very strongly. So for me to be willing to leave, it
Mm.
needed to be special. And so the first visit we made back to the island after that magical summer where we went, oh, this is it. We came back and I still remember the feeling in my body of the ferry coming in to the island, and I was standing outside looking at it, and I just felt my whole body soften and literally had
Mm.
this feeling of I'm home. And I stood there going, what the? What? Excuse me? What was that all about? But really, I came and I was just like, yeah, this is the land. This is the place that I feel I want to come home to.
And that still stands for you now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Like people say to me, oh, what's it like to live in New Zealand? And I'll be like, I don't know. Because I live on Waiheke. Do you know what I mean? Like I really feel like that. I don't feel like I live in New Zealand. I feel
Yeah.
like we've moved here and it just happens to be in New Zealand. Yeah, this place is very special. And the people, the community, the land, its values, it's a very special little place.
Yeah. Yeah. And ideal for bringing up children, isn't it? Yeah. So you mentioned the ocean. That was one of
Mm,
those things on your list. And I know for both of us, we particularly love ocean swimming. And I know you go ocean swimming regularly now, even in the cold, cold waters of New Zealand.
yeah, yes, I know. It's quite a undertaking to swim. Or we don't have a pool here to swim in, so if you want to swim, you swim in the ocean. I do have always loved the ocean. I've always loved being in and around the ocean, and I just find ocean swimming. And when I say ocean swimming here, it's like we swim 2 or 3 kilometers out around, and it's like just the most beautiful sense of connection to the ocean, to the
Mm.
water, we love just exploring new coves and discovering discovering the beauty of what's in there. It's really nice.
Yeah, tell me about how you got into your little ocean swimming group because it's really interesting. I go with a group and there was people that I knew and they just invited me to come along one day and I went, "Oh yeah, I'd love that."
Yeah.
Your experience was a little bit different though.
Yeah. So we've been here. I can't remember if it's the first year we were here. It was maybe our first winter, and it was my daughter's birthday. She has an August birthday. And
Mhm.
we braved going to the local playground at the beach for her birthday in August. Because I don't know, that seemed like a good idea. And while we were there, I watched these 3 or 4 women walking up from the beach in their wetsuits who'd obviously been out ocean swimming. And my husband looked at me and he's like, look, there are these women who've been ocean swimming. I'm like, I know. And he's like, you should go talk to them. I'm like, I will. And so I literally like saunter on over. I'm like, oh, hi. I'm new around here and I love swimming. And could I come for a swim with you sometime? And they were so sweet. They were like, sure. And anyway, yeah, they adopted me and we now swim with a beautiful pod. We just sort of keep collecting people here and there
Yeah.
onto the pod that, come through. And yeah, they're the most beautiful women to be with and to swim with and share the ocean with. Yeah.
I find it really interesting and powerful just for you how natural it was and for your husband just to go, oh, go and talk to them. Because I think a lot of women wouldn't do that. They kind of, we tend to hide a little bit and go, oh, well, I don't know them. Or we make it far more difficult than it is to go and talk to other humans who we don't know.
And I think that, people worry about looking silly, being
Mm.
judged, or overstepping a boundary with somebody else. Like, is it okay that I step into their space? But I'm a traveler at heart, and so I think I just very naturally am happy just to walk up to people and engage, and it's okay if they'd said, "Oh no, thanks," I would just would have gone, "Oh, all right." Fine. But they don't, but people don't. People don't,
Yeah.
I mean, see, I try and instill this in my children as well. Like my eldest daughter, she really notices things about people. And it might be like, I don't know, she'll notice a necklace someone's wearing, or she'll notice something. She'll be like, oh, I really want to tell them that I think that necklace is beautiful. And I was like, well, tell them. But she's like, oh, but and I'm like, no. go tell them. And I really
Mm.
encourage her to do that. And then when she does, it's always received with this open heart, right? People are like, oh my goodness, thank you. And we get into a conversation. And I really am teaching her to, if it feels like it's there, go say it, because it makes people feel nice to
Yeah.
receive, you know?
It does. I love that for your daughter as well. I think it's really important that we're teaching our children those skills. But today we're not talking about children. I really want to move into this area of matrescence that you've introduced me to. So I noticed there's something very intentional about the choices you make in your life, and which of course leads into that work that you're doing now. So you introduced me to the word matrescence. Can you tell everyone that's listening, what does it actually mean?
I think you did a great job describing it at the beginning. So, matrescence is a word that describes that transition that women go through from or into motherhood. And we would use the word in the same way that we would use the word adolescence to
Hmm.
describe a child transitioning into adulthood. And just like adolescence, matrescence is reflecting the multi-layer, multi-dimensional changes that are happening for a woman. You know, she is changing hormonally. She is
Hmm.
changing in her brain. Her sense of self and identity is changing. The way she fits into social, constructs, everything is changing. The things around this, though, that I want to say is, number one, just like adolescence, it's inevitable that you will change through motherhood. You can't
Hmm.
avoid it. So it's
Yep.
natural, it's part of the journey, but we're not talking about it. We're not preparing women, we're not giving them this knowledge ahead of time.
Hmm.
And so if you imagine that we never told a child what was going to happen to them through their adolescence, it would be traumatic for them to suddenly have all this stuff going on inside them, their bodies, their mind, their emotions, everything going, you know. If we didn't warn them, they'd be like, oh my God, what happened to me? Like, right?
Well, I remember when we were in adolescence,
Yeah.
right? You were kind of told, "Oh, you're going to get your period at some point." That, and I'm like, "Okay,"
Okay.
but there wasn't much more. Whereas
Yeah.
now, I think the education levels are much higher in terms of our children being educated about what
Mm,
they can expect. But I remember, yeah, in my
mm,
era, no,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
was literally just you're going to get your period at some point.
So this is the era we're in for women, is that we say to women, oh, congratulations, you're going to have a baby. And this is how you're going to give birth to the baby and feed the baby and sleep the baby and feed the baby and baby, 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 baby. Go for it. And nobody says, but you are also about to go on this massive transformation and you're not going to understand it and it's going to be confusing. And so,
Mm,
because we don't prepare women or tell women or acknowledge that, women enter that time of change and transition and they think something's wrong. They think they're
mm,
failing. They think that they're a bad mother. They feel awful because society has said to them, all you're going to do is go have a baby and then just go back to what you're doing before.
yeah.
You're not different. You're just having a baby. Go on, step to it. And that's not what happens at all.
No, and the expectations of what we're seeing through media, through TV shows, on social media of, oh yeah, you have a baby, you drop back to the weight you were before and you look fabulous. And then you go back to the same job doing at the same level that you were beforehand. And you've got this perfect baby. And I don't know. I'm not sure many of my friends have had that experience.
No, exactly. And if that's what we're if that's what we're saying to women is going to happen, that we're setting them up for failure, a feeling of failure, that
Mm,
they're not good enough, that they haven't done their job right. Whereas if we were to say to women ahead of time, this is what you're likely to experience, these are some of the things you're going to feel, this is some of the, who you were and who you've become, and it's going to feel out of kilter for a while, but it's okay. It's a journey, it's a transition. Don't worry. You will
yes.
find your new self, and we've got you. In the meantime, if that's what we were saying to women, it would be a
Mm.
much gentler, supported space for them to transition.
Yeah, I think particularly that line that you just said, "We've got you." I think because motherhood feels really isolating, because suddenly you feel like, oh, you've got to be stuck at home, you've got to be here, for sleep times or for feeding times, and so you spend a lot of time on your own in that initial sort of when you first had a baby, even though babies are actually quite portable. But yeah, that sense of isolation does tend to make you feel like I'm on my own. So I love this we've got you
Yeah.
sort of that you're talking about.
And if we haven't given women language to talk about their experience of how they're feeling and how they're changing and made it okay to share the truth of it for whatever's really happening, it means that, we might have 5 women going through the same thing in their homes, feeling all the things. But when they meet, hey, I'm great, I'm fine, how are you? And nobody is sitting there saying, actually, I'm really struggling with who I am now. People just see me as the baby mother. I want to be seen as me, and no one's talking about that. And that's really how, I ended up in this work long before I knew the word matrescence. So long before that
Mm,
language and framework came to my awareness, is that, I went through my own struggles as a mother with especially that sense of identity stuff. That really hit me very hard.
mm.
And I thought it was just me until I started to connect with other women. And because of the kind of person that I am, people are more inclined to have an honest conversation with me. That's one of
Yes.
my gifts. So therefore, women would trust me with a bit of their truth. And I started to see this picture that said, we're all going through this, and nobody has us. Nobody's creating that space for us to just speak our truth without judgment and to be held. And so that's how I ended up saying, well, I'm going to take my coaching expertise
Mm.
with and blend it with my personal journey and my personal experience. And I'm going to start creating this space for women and allow them to work through this, in a supported space.
So do you work with women who are pregnant or who are post having had their baby?
Post.
Post.
Because right now, we as a society
Mhm.
are not having the conversation about matrescence with women when they're pregnant or before they're pregnant. So women are still having their babies and going, what happened? And then, people who work in the field of matrescence are scooping them up after that and saying, hey,
Mm.
guess what? Sorry, no one told you, but here, let us bring you in and support you now in this journey.
Yeah.
Ideally, we wouldn't be having to do that. Ideally, this would be happening before women have babies, but we haven't got there in our kind of social awareness.
Now, it's really interesting if we then think about some of the older cultures on our earth and particularly the communities the way that they live in community. And, I note that was one of the things on your list was community. And I think the world that we're living in, the way that we're living, this separation, isolation, everyone's on their own house, on their own block, and we don't come out. Do you think that's contributing to this at all?
I think it's contributing to feelings of isolation and not having support. But I think that I don't think matrescence in our Western society has ever been acknowledged. I mean, this word was
Mm.
actually coined 50 years ago by
Okay.
so by an anthropologist called Dana Raphael, and she's also the woman that coined the word doula. Now, doula,
Ah,
interestingly enough,
yes.
right, is far more integrated,
Yep.
and not to diminish the importance of being a doula, but I would stand here and champion. Oh my goodness, matrescence is way more critical to our world, in terms of if we're going to pick one word to know, please could it have been that? But it wasn't, right? It was just sort of pushed away and dismissed.
Yeah, and doula fits in with if I think about back when I was pregnant, there was so many books about pregnancy. There's so much about the pregnancy, about what to expect in your physical body, the changes you'll go through, a little bit about what happens afterwards, nothing about that identity shift that you go through. And so that kind of all fits linguistically, with what you're telling me. And 50 years, a word that's 50 years old is actually relatively new, and particularly when let's face it, it's a word that's a a female-based word?
You won't find the word matrescence in the dictionary. Right? So this
Interesting.
word exists, and yet and what I've been discovering is that for a word to get into a dictionary, it has to have kind of evidence or proof of frequency of use. It has to show
Mm.
up enough. There's been this really interesting campaign in the US between Tommy Tippy and an app called Peanut. And they recently took out a full page ad in the New York Times saying, and basically they took some weird, I forget what it was, like a weird acronym that now is classified as a word in the dictionary, like something very modern. So they're like, how can that be in the dictionary and this can't? So they've started
Mm.
this whole campaign to champion to get the word matrescence in the dictionary,
Oh,
which I
how
think is amazing.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is. It's a conversation that we're not having. So
Mm.
let's go a little bit deeper here. So what are you finding that's catching women most off guard in their transition to motherhood?
There are many, many layers, but if we come back to this sense of identity part, because that is so deep for so many women, it is that deep tension and that deep struggle of feeling like they need to be the same, that they somehow need to go back to being just the way
Mm.
they always were, while they are naturally changing and evolving. And it creates such a deep trauma, like because they're trying to come back, they're trying to come back, they're trying to come back, and they can't, duh, because they can't, but they think they should. And so there is this really deep current of struggle as they try and bring themselves back while their natural evolution of self continues to push them another direction. And
Mm.
I think that for me is one of the deepest, hardest things that I watch women struggling with.
Yeah. So when you're working with women, what are you seeing in terms of the biggest identity shifts that are sort of happening as you work with them?
Really, just for me, it's about helping them find a place of openness and acceptance to the fact that they are changing and to be
Mm.
able to surrender to it. And it's kind of like getting on a river and going, I don't know where this river's going, but I know I have to be on it. And so instead of trying to paddle back to where we began and going, I don't want to go on the river. I don't want to go on the river. It's just like, no, we're on the river. So let's explore the river now. Let's have curiosity about our river. Let's not decide now where the river goes. Let's just know that it's taking us somewhere and that is going to be a really good place.
So I think you like just the way that you're describing what's happening in that identity shift and this fluidness, this flow that you can step into or you can balk against. You're such a great example of that, just even in the way that you were describing the flexibility you now need to have in order to be present for your daughter is that's such a strong example because I don't know, when I was pregnant, I had some sort of image of what my life would be. Certainly my life wasn't that image,
Mm,
wasn't even close to that image.
mm.
And you're in the same situation and most mothers I know are in the same situation.
And so when we hold on to those images, those expectations that we've created ahead of time, whatever's fed into them in our world that helped us create them, if we hold on to them like the truth, like they're in stone, like that is the way it needs to be, very rarely is life ever the way we expect it to be. So
Mm.
if we hold that and are locked into it, that's when we create all this sort of friction, tension, turmoil for ourselves. But when we can hold it, by all means, have a vision, but then hold it with kind of fluidity. That says, this
Yeah.
is my idea right now, but if it unfolds differently, I'm okay. I can adjust and change. I don't need to be locked in against it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm reading this book at the moment and it talks about the I guess the marriage of expectations and pressure.
Mm.
So as soon as we put some expectations on ourselves, we're also creating that sense of pressure on ourselves, which is pretty much the last thing you need when you become a mum. The pressure that you feel that is self-created rather than just being able to be with it and be in flow creates a very different experience for the entire family. We're not taught that. So the work that you're doing is so, so very important. So you're not just coaching this, like that's really clear. You're living it.
Mm.
So tell me a bit about what motherhood has asked of you personally.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question that, especially now, like, again, what we imagine, like I imagined that when I finally had 3 children at high school and they were all going to get on a ferry at 7 in the morning and they weren't going to be back till 5, I was going to have these long, calm days to finally, after many years of the juggle, I was finally going to reclaim all this time and space for myself, for my
Mm,
work, for my own interests. And I had this vision of the abundance of time and freedom I was going to have. And I had 3 months like that before, you know, our world changed with 2 of my children
mm,
becoming unwell with POTS. And so, if I just take that example, I mean, I think motherhood in general has required me to just constantly adapt and change and to always just come back to my core value as a mother, which is to be there for my girls and to support them. And I do put above and beyond my own work success. It's like, having the biggest business in the world just isn't, it's not what I'm here for.
yeah.
I'm here to serve and support others in my work, and I love being able to do that. But the ability to hold my children and support them going through some really tricky things,
Yeah.
you know, uh, that matters more. But that does then come at cost and consequence to my own self. Yeah, that
Mm,
I do not
yeah.
necessarily get to honor and fulfill me in the way that I might want to. And so that for me right now, I'm very much going through this personal journey of how do I connect a bit more to that? How do I make sure I am getting back to myself now that we're in a more stable situation in managing their
Yeah.
health? I talk about, we're up to like year 3, and I say to everyone, year 1 was just me going, oh my goodness, what has happened to us? What is going on? I don't understand any of this. What's happening to my children? I don't know how to support them. Who can help us? Panic, 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 flight, fight and flight stuff. We got to the end of that and I was like, whoa, I can't keep going like that. That's not
Mm,
okay. So year 2 was about me saying, okay, this year I need to deal with this from a more grounded place. How do I stop being in such a heightened state all the time? So that was like year 2 was like, do that. And then year 3, which is where I am now, is like, okay, now that we're grounded in this and this is going to be forever, this isn't going away. So how do I now begin to bring some of myself back into the mix of all the things? You know? But that's just part of the journey.
yeah, and it's interesting because 3 years can feel like such a long time to be
Mm,
navigating this, but as you said, this is likely to go on for a long time. There's at this point, they don't really understand POTS or what causes it. I have a friend with a daughter that has POTS, over here as well, and it's a really difficult journey, and it's a difficult journey because it's not a visible it's one of those things, it's not visible to other people. And so people just kinda go, "Are you sure they're that sick?" Kind of
mm.
those, assumptions that other people make as well. So it's a difficult thing to navigate just within your own family and then in the greater world as well. So how do you keep yourself in that state that where you wanna be like, "Okay, we need to be grounded." How are you doing that?
This year, I've actually started working with a coach because I
Mhm.
realized that I needed a space, right,
Mhm.
to unfold, to talk, to process, because when I was just trying to do it for myself, I was limited, right? I could survive in that, but I couldn't expand because I was so stuck in just managing life, and I needed to
Yeah.
sit in a different space where someone could help me to think beyond where I was and to explore things and, and to speak my truth of what I'm going through,
Yes.
as a parent, as a woman. I think that's very unsupported. as well. And for me, right now it's about focusing on the little steps, and I talk a lot about this with women I work with too. It's like, yes, okay, I have the big vision of what it might feel like when I find my way back to how I want to be, but I can't go from here to there. I need to just do like a tiny step at a time and a tiny step. And, the coach I was working with, we're talking about one of the things I crave right now is just time fully to myself
Mm.
with nobody, absolutely nobody needing me, having my attention. And we talked about, for me, it would feel like a really big deal even just to have 2 hours like that. And she was like,
Mhm.
what? She's like, I was imagining like you're going to take a week away. I'm like, oh no, that's just calm down
Yeah.
a bit. I'm not there yet. So for me, it's like little step, 2 hours. I have booked a weekend away, which I'm very excited about in May. But that's like a huge thing for me right now in my
Yes.
family. And so
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes me think about a point of saying to people, don't judge yourself on what you see others. So, you might see others going for, I don't know, week-long girl trips away, and you might go, oh my God, I can't imagine that. Like, you don't need to. It's like, for me, I can't imagine that either. But I go,
Yeah.
well, what would it look like to just go and sit on the beach with my book and do nothing and just sit and be? That would be amazing. So just do
Mm.
that for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Doesn't even have to be an hour. Like, just take the little bits, and taking little bits often will support you better than waiting for the weekend away.
Yeah, this is what I find too, that embedding little practices bit by bit when you can, with understanding that it doesn't always happen. So it builds that resilience within you, and I kind of, there's a part of me that dislikes, oh, well, let's build the resilience. I'm like, oh, we are resilient. Have a look at the life that we're living.
Yeah.
Like, it is not easy. But what I do know is those little practices and things that we do now, like when things are going okay, when we're finding those times for ourselves, they actually give us a higher capacity to deal with the things that we have to deal with when life kind of, yeah, turns to a pile of poo. Let's say it that
Mm,
way.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. What have you had to learn to let go of then for yourself?
Everything, I think.
Yeah.
Um, l- yeah, I mean, because I do really feel in the last few years that I literally just had to let go of everything
Mm.
and just be there. It really feels like that I just let go of everything
Yeah.
in order to have the capacity to hold my children and to hold, you know, this what because the beginning of a new medical journey is really tough on everybody, and it's uncertain, and you don't know what's going on, and and so yeah, literally just to let go of everything to start with, so that
Yeah.
I could just navigate that for a while. And now it's sort of like pulling the layers back in and just going, okay, now I have capacity again, some capacity. It's like, what can I bring back in? What would I like? What would I choose to bring back in first to better support myself moving forward? That's just a
Yeah.
part of the journey. Like, it's easier in hindsight, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's easier for me to now look back and go, yeah, wow, that was a really crazy part of the journey. But here we are a little bit further down the river. Yeah.
Mm.
And now I can see. And I find that, our family GP will often send mothers to connect with me who are at the start of a similar journey, so that, again, being there for each other as I get to turn around and say, yeah, I hear you, I see you, I know how scared and confused you are right now, but I can tell you that you will find your way. And this was my experience, etc. I keep coming back to this word surrender. We need to surrender to the journey and stop
Yes.
fighting it. We might not like the journey. We don't have to love it. We don't have to go, oh, yay, I'm on this journey right now. Cool. We can hate the fact that we're in that part of the journey, but fighting it doesn't help.
No, and it can take time. I know in my own journey it's really like it's required everything of me in a very different way to you. And finding that place of surrender and acceptance has been the hardest part of it, and then to sort of work through that. And yeah, I've had to get help. I think what you're saying there is yeah, we need to get other people to help us.
Mm.
And that there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's the way we're meant to support each other. We're not meant to do all of this on our own.
Yeah. And whether that be, professional help or just finding the people in your world who you can
Mm.
be
Yes.
fully open with and be held by. It takes many shapes, but you just need to have something, somebody.
Yes. Yeah. So you mentioned something that really stayed with me when we spoke the other day, and this is sort of that perfect juncture right now that I'm hearing is that what we see, what I see a lot of in our world is people pushing, and you've got to manifest, and you've got to create, and build the big business, or get the car, and yet what you said is, "Oh, no, no, I'm not pushing or creating right now. I'm allowing." And you're really living in flow. So what does that mean for you to live in flow, in particular in this season of your life?
It's about letting go of expectation. Yeah, letting
Yeah.
go. I mean, I talked about I thought I was going to be in a time of growing my business right now because I'd spent all these years since you came to support me in my first maternity leave of
Mm.
of navigating running a business with having small children and accepting that juggle for such a long time. And then I thought I was going to arrive at this place and suddenly I was going to have room to expand, and then that's not been my reality. And so living in flow has just been about accepting what is. And for me, flow is really felt in my body. So when I feel tension, when I feel
Mhm.
myself, holding my breath, holding it in my stomach, and it means I'm pushing, I'm resisting, I'm
Mhm.
working against something,
Yeah.
and so for me, it's about going, oh, okay, recognize that. What is that? How do I soften again? How do I just allow myself to literally go with the flow? But it takes a lot of courage. We're not really,
Mhm.
we're not brought up to respect that or to honor it and to trust in it. So it feels quite scary to say that to people who are brought up in this very much. I have to conquer, I have to do, I have to
Yeah.
da 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 da, because it's the absolute opposite. It's really hard to say to someone, trust me, it'll be okay. It will be
Yes.
okay if you can let go.
Yeah, I agree 100% with this. And, I mean, I've been listening to Abraham Hicks for many years, and they often talk about flowing with the river, stop
Mm,
swimming upstream, which is how it feels when we're always goal driven, when we're always focused on the doing part of our human journey, not the being part of our
mm,
human journey. And so that this constant push is exhausting.
mm.
It absolutely exhausts
Yeah,
us, whereas the flow allows us to let go.
yeah. And it's not to say that we don't still have visions of
Mhm.
things we want to do and be, right? So it's not that we're
Yes.
just going, oh, well, we're just going to float and see what happens. But
Yeah.
it's more about saying, if I imagine that I want to do this thing or get to this place or whatever, how do I arrive there in flow? Yeah.
Yes.
As opposed to the conquering energy of it. Yeah.
This is the human being part of
Mm.
it, not the human doing part of it.
Yes. And that my journey may be windy and I might sometimes go backwards to go forwards, but actually that's all perfect. Whereas we have
Mm.
a very linear
Oh, yes.
headspace of our world, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't work very well.
Yeah. No, it really doesn't. So you mentioned before it's hard for you to tell someone else, "Just trust me, it will be okay if you let go."
Yeah.
How do you build that for yourself? Like, how do you trust the flow that you're in? How do you be okay with everything just the way it is?
For me, it's all again. It's about how do I feel in my body, in my energy, and that's my indicator. I don't know where this belief has come from within me. It's something I've held for a long time, so I'm not really conscious of how I've acquired this. Um, but I have just always very much believed that if you continue to do things, engage in things, follow opportunities that quite literally feel good, the rest will take care of itself. And I have no idea how or why I ever decided, that was the way for me, but it just is. And now I've lived a number of years of my life. I can tell that the times in my life where I have been in that push, I
Yes.
can see that hasn't worked out very well for me. I still got somewhere, but it wasn't good. And so now I've had enough time of testing different pathways to go, no, when I surrender, it actually works out a whole bunch better for me. So now I can trust in
Yeah.
that more deeply.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I look back and I'm quite shocked. I go, "Oh, I'm not quite sure how I came here, but when it was in flow, I arrived here. But when I wasn't,
Mm.
I was like, I am thrashing in the river trying to run upstream, and I'm like, I can do this." It's
Yeah.
like, wow, that
Wow.
took a lot of energy.
Yeah, and so you might still get there. If we keep on this river analogy, you might still get where you
Yeah.
wanted to go or needed to go, but the experience of getting there, or the exhaustion when you arrived, or what you blew up on the way, or whatever, it's just like, oh, no, thank you. That's not the life I want to be in.
No, it doesn't sound like the ideal island living.
No. As I look out my window at the boats on the water, yeah.
Oh, so for someone who's listening to this, who resonates with this idea of matrescence and,
Mm.
and what you're talking about in taking small steps, how do you support women through the transition?
Hmm. So, I mean, my work is coaching
Yeah.
predominantly. So, I work with a lot of women just one on one,
Mhm.
but I also do some group work as well, which is kind of a nice balance. But so basically, I will connect with a woman and we will talk about where she's at, what she's feeling, where she's feeling that tension and that struggle. And we literally just go from there. Like I'll say to someone, there is no linear plan. There is no, we'll do step A, B, C, D, and then you're going to feel a whole lot better. We just enter the conversation, and I always talk about it like pulling threads. Like we'll talk and we'll say,
Yes.
oh, there are 5 different things on the table, because often there's a lot to unload at the beginning. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
okay, here it is. It's all on the table now. Which one do we want to pick up first? Which thread are we going to pull, and where are we
Mm.
going to explore? And we literally go on a journey together. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So from your eyes, then, what's one thing that every mother should understand about herself, or it would be good for her to understand?
That she is changing, and
Mm.
that she's meant to, and that it's okay, and that whoever and whatever she is evolving into will be beautiful and magnificent and powerful, and she doesn't need to be afraid of being different.
Yeah. So then what do you wish they felt more comfortable or felt safe saying out loud? Because this is where it starts, right? You have to be able to express something out loud in order to do the work. Like you're talking about, I work with people and we start pulling at threads, but what do we need to feel safe to say out loud now?
We need to feel safe to say, I don't know where I am right now, right? Because the nature of transition is there is this really messy middle where we've left the port where we were. There is a destination, but we actually don't know what it is. We have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
And so in the middle, we feel lost. And
Yeah.
so we need to feel safe to say, I don't know who I am right now.
Mhm.
I feel uncomfortable in this state of change. And here is what it would look like to support me right now.
Mm. It's interesting. So for me, I'm sort of at that other end now where my children have left home. We still have one here, but he's kind of in and out. He's barely here, and I never see him anymore. But I actually have that similar feeling now at this part of the journey of motherhood, and that's another thing where we kind of talk about that empty nest syndrome, but we don't talk about what's happening identity wise because there's another shift happening there as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
does that fall sort of under that matrescence label, or is matrescence more when you become a mother and that initial identity shift?
Traditionally, people will use the word matrescence for that very early years because
Mhm.
that is kind of the fastest, biggest, most dramatic sense of change. But
Yeah,
I would argue that matrescence is forever. We are
yeah.
constantly reaching crossroads, milestones that force us to have another layer of transition and unfolding. And so for me, I would say you are just at the next stage, the next level of your matrescence.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes sense. That feels right for me too.
Mm.
Just in that, yeah, no, this is all part of that journey of motherhood that
Yeah,
that it takes us on, all the things, and it is like we are required to change with each phase of motherhood. It's from baby to toddler to preschool to school to teenager, and then beyond. And that whole time, I just find my identity was like it just continued to shift. I didn't sort of become a mother and then realize, okay, this is different for me. Now I've got a new identity. That's who I am. It's
yeah,
just this evolving all the time.
yeah. It's not tick a box. I reached the new
Mm,
place. We're done.
yeah.
It is constantly changing.
So, big question. How do we move towards that feeling of I'm actually okay?
What if you started every day quietly, sit on the end of your bed, close your eyes for a minute, take a few deep breaths, and just literally say, I am okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing
But I think that's really that is such a powerful practice. Like, I do lots of quiet morning things now, and because I do have a bit more of that space for myself, and the words that we say to ourselves, and that we're thinking when we can sit there and go, I am actually okay. It's actually incredibly powerful,
right?
incredibly.
So simple yet so
Yeah,
powerful. One
yeah,
practice that I use for myself and I will often share with other mothers, especially when they're feeling that sort of out of controlness in the storm of early motherhood and all of that, is a little practice called Today I Choose. And
mm,
a quiet moment, literally to sit and breathe. And it's more about how do I want to be in that
yeah,
day. So it might be today I choose calm. Today I choose joy. Today I
yeah,
choose surrender. Whatever word encapsulates the sense of being that would support you in that day. And
mm,
then as the day progresses and you might feel things getting a bit crazy, with motherhood and life, and you can very easily just return to the breath and just go, oh, today I choose calm. And it's like a little reset. It goes, oh, that's right. I was choosing calm today. On I go. I
yeah.
find that a very simple but supportive practice to return you to the state of being that you want to hold in that day.
And I so agree. I agree with this. I was thinking about, I remember when I first became a coach
Mm.
and I was thinking about, oh, practice is all they've got to be big and bold and they've got to make a difference. And as I've grown older, I've learned, just the practice of saying a few words to ourselves, that they set the intentionality for our day. So I write in the journal, on the mornings that I can, not every morning because I can't every morning, but when I can, and I'm very intentional about using that same sort of language, like I choose to show up or I intend to show up, or and I really set that intention for my day. And then yes, then the next step of that is reminding yourself through the day, oh, that's right, that's what I was choosing today. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And that is enough, right?
Yes.
We don't need to have all the rah rah. I'm going to do, it's like if all we all did every day was return to that sense of intention and flow, like amazing things come from that.
Yes. Yeah, and unexpected adventures come from that too.
Mhm.
I love to finish with these little popcorn questions and I do say they're just a few popcorn questions. They're small, but they're big. But I love the answers that come
Okay.
out from these. So,
I'm
so
brave. We can do this.
all right. So what brings you most alive right now?
The ocean.
Yeah.
being in the ocean. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's me. I think that's me too. Just like, surrounded by ocean. What would your bravest self say to you about this chapter of your life?
She would just say, keep expanding, keep
Mm.
keep expanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's something small but powerful that helps you feel more like yourself?
I say two things. One,
Mhm.
music. I find
Mhm.
music from like a particular era of my like young 20s life I put on in my kitchen when I want to sort of feel that return to self and self energy. And I also have a necklace that I bought traveling in Jordan a long time ago. And I wear that necklace as kind of a totem, maybe. Like
Mhm.
I wear it when I want to, again, feel reconnected to a particular energy of myself that I want to call in, I suppose. Yeah.
I do the same thing. Actually, and even on the weekend with the music thing, I listen to a broad variety of music, although Spotify tells me last year my listening age was like 18, which was a little embarrassing. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to broaden it a bit. And I did. I put on music from when I was a teenager, early 20s. And I was laying floor at that time, and I just had such a good time, and it was that return to, I guess, a different time of our life where we felt a bit more freedom, but it was so much fun. It was
Yeah.
just fun. Yeah. Yeah. And the last question, if you could gift every woman in midlife one reminder, what would it be?
That this is a time of change and transition. And that, and this is not even about motherhood, this is midlife itself is
Yeah.
another time of
Yes.
transition and becoming, and to just say, like, embrace it. Go
Mm.
go for the journey, allow it to take you somewhere beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. As you're speaking, I'm going, yeah, midlife. It's more than just menopause.
Right? Right. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it,
Yeah.
it brings such deep personal transformation and change
Yes.
again. And again, to honor that and surrender it rather than resist it and fight it and try
Yeah.
not to be, it's just like become. I think it's exciting for, midlife women to, it's like a stepping into a new power. I really feel that. I just think,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like as women, we actually continue to get more powerful as we age. Yeah, so look out, world.
yeah. Embrace it, but embrace it, right? Don't shrink it. Like when I said before, my
Yes.
braver self would say, keep expanding. I think
Yeah.
that's where that comes from. It's like, yeah, don't box it in now. Let it
Yeah.
let it be.
Yeah. Linda, it has just been such a pleasure. Thank you so, so much for being on Midlife Unfiltered. I feel so honored that well, number one, were able to make the time because I know, you do have a lot going on in your life in terms of making sure you're there for your girls. And may I say they're very lucky girls as well.
You.
But yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been so beautiful to connect and talk today.
Thanks for tuning in to Midlife Unfiltered. I hope today sparked something meaningful and reminded you of what's possible in this season of life. If this episode lifted you up, share it with someone who could use the reminder. Subscribing will make sure that you're notified when a new episode is released, and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify also helps more people discover our little corner of midlife truth-telling. You can always reach out through Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I love hearing from women who are walking this path with me. Interested in working with me? You'll find everything you need at margitcruise.com. And remember, midlife isn't an ending. It's your invitation to feel more alive than ever. See you next week. And now the legal stuff. The content in this podcast is provided for general information and inspiration only. It does not constitute medical, legal, or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for independent professional care. Margit Cruz is not a registered health professional. You are responsible for your own choices and outcomes and should always seek advice from an appropriately qualified professional.